we are going to talk about placement assessment. So before I begin, I would just like you to think what actually you mean or you know by placement assessment, or have you ever experienced this word before, and what ideas when you think about placement assessment. So what types of ideas flash to your mind? You could take a little pause and think about this question just to activate your knowledge about placement assessment. Well, we'll continue to see the purpose of placement assessment. I mean, the purpose is primarily used to determine the entry level for a particular students and what class the students could be sitting in. So, for example, if you want to take admission in an IELTS class, so they might ask you to appear in a placement test, which will be generally conducted to see your proficiency level in certain areas. So that's the actually meaning of placement assessment. So it's usually conducted before the beginning of a course, and we need to ensure that it takes into account the constraints of the learners, their wants, necessities, and skills. So the parameters which govern placement assessment are: it needs to be clearly put. The question statements should be clearly and familiar, using everyday discourse, and brief and easy, and it should aim to elicit, collect relevant information. So these are the parameters which actually govern placement assessment. Well, what's the scope and focus of placement assessment? Its scope is generally based on syllabuses and materials for which the course of which the students have already covered in a certain language program, and this is primarily aimed to test the grammar and vocabulary of the students. So they are within placement assessment, we can use it to know or evaluate, assess the productive speaking and writing and receptive listening and reading skills. So it's up to us, what we want to assess, and usually it is done before the course begins. So there are, for example, there can be grammar-based assessments. You might ask, if you are enrolling students for a specific language program, you might give them a sentence. Okay, if I were king, so you could leave the next in blank, and this will help you know about what level their aptitude. So you could include some MCQs, multiple choice questions, and close tests. So placement assessment is generally undertaken in the beginning of a course and before the course actually begins. So it gives valuable information about the strengths and weaknesses, or the suitability of learners for a course for which they have decided to join or take part.